Good evening all. I'll be talking about web components and I promised you dragons, so there will be one dragon later on and I will explain why I called it dragons. My name is Wilfred Nas. I am a web developer. I've been doing this since 1995, so that's about 20 years, yes. I started out as a designer and now I mostly code. I work as front-end architect and as a coach, and I speak to people like you, just for fun. I do this for clients such as ING, ABN AMRO, Ziggo, Rabobank. I had just about every bank here in Holland for the past couple of years. I'm missing one I am doing my business with, so don't know if that's coincidence. I recently switched. I did a lot of work for the Dutch police, including the website where you go to when your bike is stolen. I did that 8 years ago. And the fun thing is, the same code still stacks and works in this browsers as we have developed that for IE6 and 7 at the last moment. So, dragons. Why would I call you dragons? It's really scary dragons ones. Hang on to your ads. In the old days, they said there will be dragons. And they were talking about the maps the really old sailors used. They had parts of the maps filled in, the lands they knew, and they were going out to explore, and they didn't know what was out there. So at the end of the map, there were dragons. And web components is something new. So dragons. The web components, what are the web components? They are not one thing. We said it is a set of specs defined by the W3C, enabling you to create widgets to be included on one or more pages. That's in short the gist of it. And I'll be talking about a lot of things about specs. They have a cool logo, by the way. It's really the logo. Hans Bruce Lawson, he works for Opera. He made this, and so I believe him. It's a real logo. And they are now supported, these web components, as they are a new technology in not all browsers. They are supported in the really big, most dominant browser in the room. That is Chrome, sorry. And that's no mistake or nothing strange about that, because the specs are being driven by Google as well. Because Google really wants to have web components. Don't really know why, but really want it. And the overall support of web components, there's a one button you are not supposed to touch. I'm touching that. The support for that, as of now, is really good for Chrome. It's like 100% across the board. Opera, also really good. Android, really good. The rest, not so good. So, if you're trying to use them, that's cool, but remember when we developed for IE6? Just a quick thought, not really good. So it's not supported really well. I mean, Edge has nothing. Safari has 25%, Firefox has 25%, iOS Safari 25%. One of the 4 specs are being supported by more than one browser. I include Opera in Chrome for now, as it's the same rendering engine, not the same browser, the same rendering engine, and that's what matters for now. So what kind of web standards are we talking about? If we're talking about web components, do you have worked with web components? Anybody in the room? Experience with? You? Sure. Not so much. But these are specs that we're talking about. And some of the specs, one of the most important thing in my opinion is so-called custom elements. That lets you create a widget, a custom element. It's like a tag. It lets you create a custom tag on your page to do whatever you want. Support of that, including these boring slides everywhere, it's pretty good for Chrome. So that lets you create widgets. Widgets that what we want to do is create widgets that have for instance, a simple data list. You type into this box, you start with typing in A, and then it says it will, because that's one of my clients, it has a small bit of autocomplete. And how will we mark up such a widget? We will do that with good code, obviously. We will do clean semantic HTML, we'll have a div with a data list, with an input, and that's it, because that's what we need, right? That's what we are going to do. A custom element. Real good CSS. HTML for this, good, it's what I would use. The scary thing is, the usage today of what we call widgets is widespread. You have dojo widgets, for instance. I work at a large bank now, and they had very, very smart people on board. Really smart people, JavaScript developers I call them. And they had no notion whatsoever of HTML. So they make, you can all read this. This is 1/6 of the code that does the same as what I just showed you. And that is a div within a table, sorry. With 3 cells to make the corners, because you cannot do that with CSS, right? You need images for that. So this is real code. I know the people who wrote that, and they are smart. They're JavaScript developers. And they do that to make this. And they make real code. And these are the people that make widgets now. That scares me. Really, that scares me, because the widgets we are going to use can do really utterly cool stuff. One of the guys is not here today, Kun, made this. This is a custom element, IE6. It lets you play Nintendo games on your web page. That's what you need. And what you need to put that on your page is this. This is a simple custom element. So it's really cool. But if you put this on your page, what will you get on your page? What will it fetch? What kind of images? What kind of JavaScript? You don't know. Not bad. It's something you have to take into consideration when you do this stuff. Another spec is, this is the really quick one and boring, HTML imports. Supported by Google Chrome. And it lets you, because before you have that custom element on your page, you have to link it with HTML imports. And this just tells browsers how to handle that stuff. Not really that important to us developers. The important stuff is specs on, for instance, templates. Templates is one of the 4 which I really love, because this is a standard which is driven by developers. We needed something as developers. We needed a way to have templates on our page, to have something that we could use with JavaScript to iterate over a list of images, for instance, and do stuff with that. And we had to use evil things like inner HTML to get the HTML which we wrote in the JavaScript put out on the page. Support for that is pretty good. Not only Chrome. See that? It's green. IE6 doesn't have it. Well, it's not out yet. But I talked to David Story, one of the guys on the IE team, and he said to me they will be adding it in September or October. So by then, we'll have green across the board. The only one which is red is Opera Mini. And Opera Mini is a proxy browser which does not treat JavaScript the same as normal browsers do. So it does not do templates. So that will tell you one big disadvantage of templates. You need JavaScript to have them working. And in my opinion, that's not really bad, although I am the holder of the domain name javascriptsevil.com. I really am. And I think it's true. But you need to think about what you're doing if you're using templates. Will there be users without JavaScript? And everybody says, nobody has the JavaScript disabled. But I'm in the train every day, I answer. And that's shitty Wi-Fi. So that JavaScript file will not download completely. And your page will tell me, I have no JavaScript. So I'm not getting your content. If you have a blog like mine, which is visited 3 times a month by my mom, and she doesn't speak English, then it's not that important. But if you have a big website, you sell stuff. The figures are saying that 1% of users do not support JavaScript. 1%. That's not necessarily people who have turned it off, but cannot download enough of the JavaScript, or not fast enough, the connection timed out, so you think they have no JavaScript. So if you have a really big website, like for instance bold.com, and 1% of your users cannot buy your stuff for a couple of hours, it's going to cost you a lot of money. And JavaScript always works? No. The download link for Google Chrome, Google, big company with more developers than we will ever know, and smarter people than we will know, 1.5 years ago was down for 3 to 4 hours. People could not download Google Chrome because the download link was a div with an on-click and JavaScript in it. Yay, JavaScript. It fills. So, templates. It was driven by handlebars, for instance, which let us do stuff like this. We created a template. Have you used stuff like handlebars? Anybody? Some people have. You created this script tag, and instead of saying it should type JavaScript, you should set it to type template, was it? And then include this. The browser would not render it, so you got nothing until you had JavaScript. Pick this up and iterate over that. Do it 500 times on a page. You can do that now with templates. And templates are really, it looks better. It's a semantically correct thing of saying almost the same thing. And like the handlebars example, you need JavaScript to do that. You need to select the element, the template. You should set something, do something with it. I do a logo in the image, and then put it back into the body. And only now is the template visible for the normal DOM. Before that, videos would not play, sound would not play, JavaScript would not execute, CSS styles were not visible. Templates were really an inert piece of HTML, like a comment. So it's a safe place to put stuff. The fourth specification comprising web components is the shadow DOM. Shadow DOM has the same support as the other three. Chrome. And shadow DOM is mainly a solution to, if you have a widget now that you include in a page, that we have something that Sunny talked about, you put something in a page and it has already CSS on it. The thing you put in it, the widget, will be affected by the CSS of the surrounding page. And that can be a good thing, or that can be a bad thing. But if you have shadow DOM, you kind of fix that. You have a shadow DOM, you create a piece of HTML DOM on your page, which is not affected by the CSS above it. And the other way around works the same. CSS in the shadow DOM does not affect the page around it. But you can do it because we have deep, we have host content, it's a large spec, and I'll show you a small part of it, because if you really have nothing to do, I read specs for this talk, and specs are being written by people who write specs, and that's a profession in itself. It's not something I like to do. I read them, I do that, but if you read really small text, a document tree is a node tree DOM whose root node is a document. So you kind of know what it is. Any element can host 0 or 1 associated node tree is called a shadow tree. A shadow host is an element that hosts one shadow tree. And this is in introduction of the specs. And it had me going like, sorry. I was not drinking, but I felt the same. It's like, what's this? But if you show me something like this, I mean, this is HTML, a div with light DOM in an H3, then a piece of JavaScript that says, we create a shadow root in a div, and we say another H3, and we give it a style. Now I see on the page a red header 3. Let's go. Okay, that's shadow DOM. Really simple, but you have it in real life now. Shadow DOM is being used extensively. We are using it. All of it are using it today. Because, for instance, if you have a video tag, then you set it to have controls. That's a shadow DOM for you. All of the play button, how long it's played, the rangefinder here, something, that's shadow DOM. It is being, you can access it through developer tools in Chrome, for instance. There's a flag you can show shadow DOM, and then you can look at it and you can play with it. That's why I think shadow DOM should be of the browsers to render really difficult stuff. We should stick with CSS and HTML and JavaScript and the normal DOM, because you really need that not interfering with each other magic if you don't talk to each other. And I worked at IE, for instance. Now we had 25 people doing front end. We are across 9 teams, across 3 continents, and we do code reviews extensively. We make mistakes, we need the tools that were talked about before. We use a variation on that. But we don't really now need, in my opinion, the shadow DOM. But the thing is, with all the web component stuff, it is being supported by Chrome. And that's a bad thing, because we had a time that we had one browser that we were all working for. I don't know how long you've been working on the web, but I know at the time that I worked for IE6. I know I was working for the Dutch police at the time, and they said, I have that in writing, we will never switch from IE6. I was like, what? Yes, you will. No, we won't. But IE, the entire company, Microsoft, which was then led by Bill Gates, the richest man in the world. He's the smart guy. They stopped the development team of IE6. After IE6, because IE6 won. It was the best browser. Stop. Full stop. And we're going home. So IE6 was the browser. What we're seeing now is people are developing for Chrome. And in almost the same, a bit lesser, for Safari on iOS. And they think that is the web. Because we, as developers, have iPhone 6. We have MacBooks. We have good computers. We download the latest Chrome. We don't have to do that because it does that for us. But normal users don't necessarily do that. I mean, my mom, who goes to my blog, and she does speak English, but she has IE. She doesn't know what kind of version she has. She doesn't care. And she shouldn't have to care. But we are dangerously close to going to develop for Chrome. And web components are one step more for people trying to do that. And also now, in my opinion, best people for the web. All due respect, the JavaScript people I'm talking about, those are the smart programmers, not necessarily the web developers that know JavaScript, that know HTML, that know CSS, that know user interface design, that know accessibility, that care about performance, care about aesthetics. It's a whole range of things you need to care about other than programming. And I see a lot of smart people in the field work only on JavaScript. And they would love tools like, for instance, Polymer, which is a way of Google, a JavaScript library, is it? Or framework? No, one of the two. And you can use all the web component goodness today. This lets you use that in all the browsers. It goes back to IE9. So you're leaving IE8 out. Is that a big percentage of your user base? I don't know. Do I think you need to support everybody? Yes. But it's nice, and it lets you do all kinds of things. You elements, polymer core elements, and paper elements. And paper elements, for instance, it lets you style a checkbox. Whoop-de-doo. Yay, we can style a checkbox. We can do that now with CSS, come on. It can have really cool stuff. You have the Google Web Components. For one component, you have a Google Calendar. Okay, nice. Wow. Most of the stuff is you have the gold element, the e-commerce elements. And those are really cool. They let you validate a phone number. Yeah, we can do that now. But easier, so people will be using this because it eases development time. But will they think about speed? Will they think about what kind of library extra you need to download? What kind of extra library your user will need to download? The speed impact it will have on the ease of development. Because you're not building the web page for yourself, you're building the web page for your user. I worked with a programmer at a bank, and they could not log in without JavaScript. Why was that, I said, flabbergasted? Because it was too much work. Okay, you have to duplicate the login code to the backend. Yes. Why didn't you do that? We didn't have the time. There was nothing else I can do to repeat the question, why didn't you do that? We didn't have the time and everybody has JavaScript. Then I switched back. Because we are going to have a best view with Internet Explorer website, but again, only it will be Chrome. If we all start to use web components in the way, for instance, Polymer, and do not think about the fallbacks. Because web components can be really nice, really accessible, really speedy, nice to use, customizable. They are not evil. They can do everything we want. But they have the same problem, or they will have the same problem like the jQuery plugins. Whoever has looked for a jQuery carousel. It's nice, right? I want to have a carousel on my page, although it's evil, but my client wants that, so I'm looking for a jQuery carousel, and I have a gazillion of them. Which one to choose? Do you choose the speedy one, the best customizable, the easiest to develop with, the best for your user, which is accessible? Will it be maintained? If I have a bug for it, will they fix it? I don't know. There is some talk about web components and peer review. There are some people talking about organizing a platform to which everybody can send in their web components to be reviewed. But on what? Will they care about speed? Will they care about accessibility? Will they even care about if it's JavaScript dependent or not? Because every of the web component there is now, in my opinion, ever going to be, are JavaScript dependent. So will you be required to write a fallback? Do you want to write a fallback? Do you care about your users? I hope you do. But what I really hope is that there are some people around here, like Shu, who really focus on accessibility, participate in this stuff. Really look at specs, ask people from the developing community what's going on, help them make it better. Because if we let only the programmers work on this, they will create really smart, super cool things. And when asked about accessibility, after this release, and if you really push it, fix it on Monday. But that Monday will never come. So, web components, a gloomy story. Really cool to use, but in my opinion, dangerous. So if you have any questions, you can ask me now or on Twitter. Thank you. Use plain HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. Write everything as you want it, but don't be dependent on JavaScript. Write for the lowest common denominator. If you have a application, for instance, that lists addresses on a map, you should say, no, I'm dependent on JavaScript. You can always say, build a list of addresses, unordered list elements, addresses on it. if you have JavaScript, as 99% of users will, take that list as data and insert it into a map from Google or whatever. So you will do the same, but you think first of what the most low point is in which you can make your application functional. Not as nice, not as friendly, not as flashy, but a list of addresses is really helpful for someone who has almost no internet connection. Maybe somebody will prefer it. So you can always think, if you start with no JavaScript and really think about it, you can do much more than you think. So the alternative is no. You should use it if you think they're necessary, do it. But think of the alternative beforehand. And use that. Use, for instance, your HTML as your DOM, as your API. That's it.
Can you consider?